talking about leaders, there's one man who's in charge of the country who has a hand over the happenings of Parliament. Talk me through the catastrophic week for the government and their handling of Parliament.
Well, what I will say, this has been an extraordinary week. We are seeing the dismantling of democracy by this ever more authoritarian government, I would say a pseudo-communist government. The public are seeing that as he's now removing from almost 4 million people the right to vote at the local elections. But what I'm going to give you is how that is manifesting inside Parliament, because he's absolutely dismantling how we work in Parliament too. So I'm going to give you the inside track there. You see, Labour's legislative agenda, as you will know, is absolutely falling apart. That means his programme for government has collapsed. He's lost direction, and with it, I will say, he has lost his moral compass too, as has this Labour Party. His mistakes are getting bigger, his U-turns are coming quicker, and now, if you work that out, it's about a U-turn every 6 weeks. And I would say what is even worse, the man can't even do a U-turn properly. Starmer is such a disaster, he can't even complete a U-turn. Because a U-turn would actually give you clarity. It would give you certainty on that policy. So you'd know the lousy policy I've come up with has been removed in its entirety. We know where we're going. But what we're getting from this bunch of clowns is half U-turns, a third U-turns, a U-turn on a U-turn, and nobody actually knows what is going on. And the PM is being ridiculed at Parliamentary, at Prime Minister's questions, as we saw this week, that MPs were chanting U-turn, 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 as Kemi Badenoch was saying, the waspy women, 2-child benefit cap, grooming gangs, family farm tax, digital ID. And then she said, jury trials, everybody shouted U-turn, and then we went, we hope, because he is such a nonsense. And the reason I'll say some of these haven't even come about. So the rape gang inquiry, last June that was talked about as a U-turn, still hasn't happened, right? I'm working with Rupert Lowe, who, as an independent MP, as an independent inquiry, our inquiry session starts in February. The government still can't get theirs going. The farm tax is a slight change. It's not going to bring in the government 500 million. It's now going to bring them in 300 million, part of it. The digital ID, this is so embarrassing, right? He's denying it's a U-turn, though he said, let me be clear, you have to have mandatory digital ID to be able to work in this country. They've removed the mandatory, but he's pretending it's not a U-turn. But I'm going to focus on here on the business rates debacle for pubs.
Yeah.
And I'm going to focus a little bit here because I'm talking about the dismantling of democracy, the dismantling of what goes on. Now, we've got here a budget that doesn't stack up. This is going to cost money. This is going to cost anywhere between 300 million to pubs to 2.4 billion if you take hotels and everybody, shops, retail, everybody into this, right? So, not only did Rachel Reeves leak and brief unheard of before a budget, right? We've now got a budget not worth a light because it doesn't stack up. I bumped into Norman Lamont, a former Conservative Chancellor the other night in the House of Lords, and he said, disgrace, there used to be a purdah around budget. You couldn't talk about it. Now nobody seems to go. So they're destroying all of our history and heritage in that way.
And it shows you that as you said, that breakdown in process in Parliament and how and the respect for the institution, really.
And you will remember we'd just come off last week doing this podcast, and they announced, we guessed it was going to go a U-turn, but they announced it, right? That was a week ago. They announced it. They've done news. They haven't even come to Parliament yet to say how it is going to work. They haven't done a statement to the House because they don't know. In fact, a blinder played by Kemi, when she asked Keir Starmer at PMQs, how is this policy going to work? He hadn't got a Scooby-Doo, he hadn't got a clue, and he didn't even want to answer it.
So talk me through the perceived tension between the Treasury and Number 10. Now, we've seen a bit of that friction. There was winter fuel payment, which was Rachel Reeves, the farming tax. They seem to be slightly at odds there, but this is rumbling on. Number 10 doesn't seem too happy with the way Treasury is controlling the money.
Right, so you were spot on. So like I said, Starmer doesn't know what the policy is. He seems to say, I can just say it and it is. So he's now become a prime minister by press release. He just says what he's thinking at the time, thinking that's good enough. It isn't. There's a whole host of work that goes into changing a policy. So not only has he not got the finances right, the team, the civil servants, the staff can't even make the policies quick enough. So you are right. There is now a growing tension between number 10 and number 11. So much so, and this could be part of why we don't know how this business rate is going to change, is number 11 doesn't want to do it. Rachel Reeves is saying, oh my God, I gave myself at the last budget a 22 billion headroom.
Yes.
So she's done a 68 billion tax on all of us, and she gave herself a headroom. But within 6 weeks, she could have spent anywhere between £500 million to maybe nearly 3 billion. So she has spent that in 6 weeks. They might have another 150 weeks in office, another 3 years in office, which means they could go absolutely burst her headroom. So this is the tension. Now, this is difficult because their fortunes, Reeves and Starmer, their fortunes are inextricably linked.
Yes, absolutely.
However, they're now imploding because of cost, because of policy changes, and obviously she'll be falling out with her team and she'll be falling out with them. And the best she could say last night when they're saying, will Starmer still be around, was, her words are, there's no credible alternative. And I think that's sort of through gritted teeth. She doesn't know what to do, but the tensions are there growing. Now, we remember the tensions between Brown and Blair, but this is going to be quicker and worse because at least you had two, I'm not of their persuasion, but they were two class acts of politicians, Blair and Brown. I said, not my policies, I wouldn't have done any of them, I don't agree with it, but they were class acts. We've got two duffs in number 10 and 11, and now they're falling out. What is interesting, and this is a topic in Parliament at the moment, is she going to jump first and actually dish the dirt on him?
Interesting.
Because when she cried, do you remember that crying in Parliament?
Yes, in
that wasn't a personal thing. What I understood is she'd tendered her resignation. He didn't accept her, but didn't back her when Kemi asked a question, have you got confidence in your Chancellor? And he didn't. And that was what the tears were out. So people are saying, oh my, what is she going to do to get any credibility back? Because her credibility is shot.
Yeah.
And what she needs to say is, do you know what? I've had enough. I've done as much as I can do with the clown at number 10. He keeps changing policy and I cannot keep up with the cost of it. It's him who's wanting to do it, not me. Do you know what? On principle now, I'm going to resign. I'm going to go. I mean, that would explode everything. Yes. But people say she's at her wit's end. She looks terrible, sounds terrible. She goes to Washington, D.C. for 2 days and oh my goodness, she's got to come back. And then that announcement yesterday in Leeds that she did about Northern Power Rail was a disaster.
Yeah.
1.1 billion for a scheme that's worth 45 billion, which they can't do. And that, I hear, because that was something else rushed through, that I hear was because they're trying to keep their mayors on board for the elections coming up, and that's what they had to do as a kind of sop. And so when I say he's dismantling it bit by bit, and I'm going to go back into Parliament now, changing policy, you haven't got a Chancellor on side.
Yeah.
They can't work out what they're going to do with this policy. They haven't got the money to do it. And so they're changing now the schedule of Parliament. So we had an alarming business statement change. We were meant to be doing law and voting on it on Wednesday, which was the Public Office Accountability Act. It was cancelled last minute to go for Monday. It now might be cancelled completely because they haven't got the work in place. And the Hillsborough Group has come out saying, we don't like it. He's promised something. Yeah. He can't deliver, and we're now last minute doing shuffling changes in the House, unheard of, because you know how organised the House is.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know, I'm just thinking, I wonder whether increasingly, I know often Labour MPs are described as spineless, but increasingly, and I'll give you an example from yesterday, there was a vote where 26 Labour MPs did rebel against the government on the Public Orders Act, and that was all in relation to protest outside animal testing laboratories. I thought that was really interesting. Among them was a former minister, and I just thought, fine, maybe Labour MPs have been described as spineless in the past, but they seem to be growing a bit of a backbone.
Well, the reason
which
I'm
could be a
smiling, because
problem.
everything you're saying is spot on, the reason I'm smiling is because that was a deferred division yesterday. And that actually was another U-turn by Labour, because the Conservatives brought it in the last Parliament and they all voted against it.
Yeah.
And he's now saying it's sort of, essential infrastructure, therefore we can't have protests around it, therefore you've got to do it. So he has U-turned, so that's another one. They say 13, you could actually make that a 14th one. And I think his MPs are saying, we don't know what to do, which is what we've said before. You've walked them to the top of the hill, walked them back down again. They voted against this, and they're finding their nerve now. And I bumped into, you'll know him, Carl Turner. We talked about him, the most outspoken one in the House last week about trial by jury, saying this is a disaster.
Who had also voted against the government.
He voted against it, told them all he was going to vote against it, say this is a disastrous Labour government. I cannot believe they're doing this. Saw him on the escalators in Parliament yesterday, said, oh my God, I'm probably going to be done for harassment of Starmer. I've been texting him all weekend to say this is a disaster, this is a disaster. I think we will get a U-turn. So I think, the Labour MPs, and what did I say they all needed to do for New Year? Get a spine, get some confidence rebel against them. So they're bringing them all down. So maybe with that deferred division, and maybe it was easier to rebel in a deferred division in a way, it's a piece of paper nobody necessarily sees and you hand it through. But hopefully they are. It's still a very high bar. Remember, it's 80 MPs who've got to come out publicly and get behind one candidate.
Yeah.
And that is, as Rachel Reeves said in her Peston interview last night, is the best we've got. Yeah. So where do we go? So do you see, I say to people, he's not just destroying the government, this Prime Minister, he's destroying parliamentary timetable, how it works, and the crumbling our infrastructure in the House. We have a set time, we start the day, we have set questions every day, we have statements, we have urgent questions, or the other way around, actually have urgent questions, then you have statements, you have days that you do stuff, and that he just can't live by. Why? He's lost his way. Why? If he were a boxer, I would say throw in the towel. He looks punch drunk. He's staggering from one place to another. He looks grey. He looks pasty. He's hiding behind his glasses. Throw in the towel. Get rid of him before he destroys us all. And he's becoming more and more authoritarian the more and more he's losing the way. And that's why he's now withdrawing the votes from people. He's doing it here that everybody is saying it is not right. It's only meant to be for extreme things. Even the 2 World War, they voted on it in the House. The 2 World Wars to stop elections, they voted in the House. He is now doing it more or less on a whim to do with finances. And I'd say he will try and stay there in that regard forever.